Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the mini PC that can potentially replace your gaming PC. It turned out to be a very nice mini PC, so hit the like button and let's start. This is a Geekom AE7 mini PC that Geekom provided for this video. The box looks nice and inside we have a mini PC itself, thank you note, that's nice. From the accessories we have a barrel jack charger with 120 watts output, HDMI cord, power cord for the charger, manual and metal plate with screws in case you want to mount PC behind your monitor. I had a very nice first impression from unboxing, it feels premium. This mini PC has a cool silver design. The case here is mainly made of aluminum with some plastic covers for cooling openings. The port configuration is very rich. On the front we have two USBs, an audio port and a power button. On the back we have a power port, two Type-C ports, one of them can work as a display port. Then we have two HDMIs, Ethernet and two USBs. On the side, PC also has an SD card reader, which is very convenient if you work with a video or photo content. It's mainly advertised as a workstation mini PC, but I'm going to test gaming performance as well. Let's first check what we have inside. We have a dual channel with 32GB of RAM from Crucial, 1TB of M.2 SSD storage, I believe it's a 4th gen, we'll benchmark it later. I have never heard of this brand. Under the cover we have a metal tray for storage upgrade. It's definitely nice to have it, and I also like that it has a thermal pad, so it's serving as a passive cooling for our M.2 SSD. On the opposite side we have our CPU with a turbine fan for cooling. I can see it has a very compact design, which does come with some cons as well. We'll see how it handles CPU temperature later. I assembled everything back, connected the power adapter and 1080p 144Hz monitor. Let's hit the power button. You can see it has some backlight, and yes, it started right away with no problems. After setting up the Windows system, we have a Windows 11 pre-installed. Let's quickly go through the specs. For the CPU we have a Ryzen 9 7940HS, which is an 8-core 16-thread CPU with 4GHz base frequency and 16MB of L3 cache. Next we have a 32GB of DDR5 memory that works on 3600MHz from the box. For the storage we have a 1TB SSD, which turned out to be Gen 4, here's the benchmark. And for the GPU we have an integrated Radeon 780M graphics. The specs look promising. I wanted to test 780M graphics for a while now, so I'm going to start with the benchmarks and then move to the games. In the 3D Mark benchmark, PC scored almost 3400 points. During the benchmark, the CPU temperature stayed around 90 degrees for the most part. It's not critical, but you can also see how fast the CPU clock drops, which affects performance. Surprisingly, the PC is not loud during the benchmark, which is a plus. Those turbine fans can be annoying sometimes. I decided to remove the top panel to allow some more air for the fan, and it worked. The temperature improved by around 3 degrees. CPU stays under 90 now, but it doesn't really have any noticeable performance boost. I will continue testing with the top cover on, but it would still be nice to have some spare top cover with cooling openings. Let's move to the games, testing everything in Full HD 165Hz. Valorant on high settings runs pretty well. I see a smooth frame time graph with the FPS in around 180s most of the time. Moving to CS2 on high settings, I see over 100 FPS most of the time. The frame time is not perfect, you can't be super competitive here, but it's very playable. Let's try something more demanding. In Fortnite with the recommended settings, which are DirectX 12, 72% 3D and Epic preset, I see around 45 FPS. The frame time is not pleasant, but overall I'm very impressed with the 780M graphics. It's able to run over 30 FPS even with Epic settings. Let's check performance mode as well, and here I'm getting closer to 200 FPS with a much better frame time. Moving on, in the finals, which can be a very demanding game, I set low settings with FSR in balanced mode and got around 60 FPS. The game is definitely playable, but with that frame time it's not easy to keep up with the game dynamics. Next game, PUBG. On medium settings I'm getting around 45 FPS, but if I lower the settings to very low I see 80 plus most of the time. In Call of Duty Warzone I got around 55 FPS with the auto set preset. It's somewhat playable and you can play with the setting a bit to get better FPS. Moving to Apex Legends, with the competitive settings I got very playable around 100 FPS most of the time. At some location FPS can drop even to around 70, but overall it stays over 60 all time. So you can see this mini PC can run pretty much any online game with acceptable FPS. Of course you can see the temps are getting over 80 in in all games, which causes CPU throttling, but I don't think it's a big problem in this case. At the end of the day, it is a mini PC and the CPU temperature keeps itself in an operating range as intended. At the same time, this mini PC is surprisingly quiet. There is some white noise from the turbine fan if you listen closely, but nothing high-pitched or annoying, which is a good plus. Let's check how it performs in single-player games. In Cyberpunk 2077, with the low settings and FSR in balanced mode, I got 79 average FPS, with the 13 FPS lows. In the game itself, I ended up switching FSR to performance mode to get some more stable FPS. You can see from the frame time graph, the game runs not very smoothly, but it's playable. In Elden Ring, I see pretty much the same performance. On low settings, it runs at around 40 FPS. I tested some more games and overall you can play some heavy games as well. Of course, it involves some upscaling and low settings, but as for this mini PC with integrated graphics, it's a pretty nice result. Speaking of replacing your gaming PC with it, I don't think it's easy, but it's possible. These iGPUs are getting closer to a budget gaming PC performance. I also tried editing video on this mini PC and it showed pretty good results. I can edit 4K videos with smooth playback. It has 32GB of DDR5 RAM, which helps a lot in multitasking. Portability is also a big thing. It is back to school time, so if you want a portable mini PC workstation for school or if you are traveling for work, this one is a very decent option. Last week I traveled through half of the country and I actually used this mini PC in motels. I took a 24-inch monitor with me and I can say it was pretty comfortable. I was able to do some work and haven't faced any issues. By the way, speaking of the TVs, with its powerful iGPU, this mini PC can easily be used as a 4K home theater. I tried it with a 55-inch 4K 60Hz TV and it worked out great. The only thing you'll need in that case is a wireless keyboard and mouse. I even ran some online games to see if it can handle the console duties and I wasn't disappointed. Of course, I have to run most of the games in Full HD to get decent FPS, but even with that, it's comfortable to play. Plus, since we have a Windows system here, you can basically use any controller. I used this Xbox controller that I got off Amazon and it worked nicely. I also ran some light games in 4K resolution. In Worms WMD, I got smooth 60 FPS. Hollow Knight also runs pretty well. With 4K and low settings, I got 80 plus FPS most of the time. I think you can easily use this mini PC for emulation as well. So after testing it in different applications, I am very impressed with this mini PC performance. If you need a small mini PC that does not take a lot of space and at the same time you want to be able to do any tasks on it, gaming or productivity, definitely check out the Geekom AE7. There is also a Geekom AE8 which has pretty much the same performance, maybe even slightly better, so check it out as well. All links are in the description. I am planning to post more consistently from now on, so hit the like button to support this channel and I'll see you in the next video.